Hey, my name is Nitashia Johnson. I'm a multimedia artist. I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and I've actually lived all over Dallas. One of my very first memories, the earliest that I can remember, was living in West Dallas. I went to Priscilla L. Tyler and eventually ended up at Carver, which is a great elementary school. I loved it. I loved the teachers. I loved the history. And I really loved just the environment. We were going through a lot of stuff, but when you're a kid, you don't really know, because it's all about love and joy, and you see like your friends playing outside. But through all of the things that were happening at that time, I was living there with my grandma and one other older sibling. She's a year older than me. It was a beautiful experience. I think that was actually one of the first times in my life where I fell in love with natural light. Just seeing it pour through the windows. We lived in the West Dallas projects over there, pretty close to Edison and Pinkston and all of those great schools. But I don't know, it was a beautiful moment. I have a lot of core memories from that time. And when I say I lived all over Dallas, I really moved around a lot because I didn't grow up with my parents in my life. I love them dearly, but things happen. And it just, life leads you down different paths. We might not understand why certain things are going on, but the universe will provide. You just have to be open, leave your soul really just free to explore, and things will turn around for you. When I was living in West Dallas, I had a step grandpa, but I just called him my grandpa. But amazing man. I remember him.
So where exactly
I was
is
sitting on the
this
floor,
location?
playing with toys, and he was like, "Never lose your smile." So when things happen, I just remember that statement, and I keep going, and I try my best to push positive energy out into the world, and most definitely I try to do that with my creativity. From West Dallas, there was many situations that could have shifted who I was. My mom would visit on occasion, and take us out on the town. And that's when, not to reveal my age and nothing like that, but that's when DART came out, like the DART transportation and stuff. And I was like, man, but we hit the town with her one day, and I saw her doodling this man on the bus, the back of his head. I remember he had on a white tank top. He had really kind of rough kind of hair, it was really fluffy, kind of like he just rubbed it and stuff like that. But it was beautiful, and I saw my mom drawing him, and I wanted to try that. Really inspired by my mom, even though she wasn't around, but just a beautiful woman. So I want to give thanks to her for that. And since that moment on, I've been drawing and creating and using my work to make a difference and help people. With the moving around, I eventually ended up in different areas, like East Dallas, went to school in South Dallas. That's where I ended up at Pro C. Even McKinney, North Dallas, and Irvin at different points in times in my life. I was even in Oak Cliff for a little bit of time because I went to Daniel Webster. That's where my sister would beat up bullies for me. She was something. But being this kid that moved around, shifted from different households, it was difficult, but it was also a great experience for me, I would say, because I've seen a lot. And I love my aunties and my family members that came through to support us when our parents were not around. When I was in East Dallas, I was living in Fraser Courts Projects over there with an older sibling, and I actually met a great art teacher by the name of Miss Grisby. I have to give Miss Grisby her props because as a junior high school kid, I would hide out in the restroom. Kids can be mean in junior high school, they can. They can be something, but I would hide out in the restrooms, and she would notice that stuff, and I would also hide out in her art classroom. I would hide out there and I would draw. And I would draw photos because my mom planted that seed in me. I would draw images for people that I love. And all of the kids noticed, would try to get me to draw them tattoos. You know how it goes. And she really saw that in me, and she told me about graphic design. I didn't know what that was. Told me about Booker T. Washington. I didn't know what that was. And this lady worked with me for a good year and a half to build a portfolio. That is actually after my shift from McKinney, where I lived with my aunt, because once again, we were moving around. And, I remember the day that I went to Booker T to audition. I didn't go there with anyone. I went there with my portfolio, caught the bus all the way downtown, signed the forms myself, told them my parents were outside, knowing that they were not outside, did that whole process and was waiting. I remember during the interview process at Booker T, they were like, what do you want to be? And I remember what Ms. Griesby told me, you can go to school to be a graphic designer. I was like, I want to do graphic design in the future. I want to, make beautiful
There's so much cool stuff to film in here.
In this world. And how I found out that I got into the school, I didn't get a letter. I probably filled out my address wrong, who knows, but I didn't get a letter in the mail. So little me would call at school every day. And I'm like, did I get in? Did you let me know? And I know they were like, dang, this kid is like really persistent. She's consistent in contacting us. And the day that they told me I got in, man, I was crying. I was so happy because I knew that I could be myself. I knew that creativity is something that I wanted to tap into, and I wanted to be a creative person. It was something about how it uplifted my spirit and how it made me feel, and how it made me feel when I gave like drawings and works of art to people that I really love. And this is funny, but it also helped me tap into the music that I liked, because I would draw like images of Sisto, like from Drew Hill, and I was like, I love, I'm a huge fan of them, by the way. Very peaceful. I learned about them from older siblings, but it was just a beautiful experience being there. Now, when I was at Booker T, I was still struggling. There were things happening, moving around again. But through the moves, I knew that I was like, man, I really got to stay at the school, because in the next 10, 15 years, I know it's going to make an impact in my life. I just need the resources. I really need the resources, which is why it's important to support kids who need the resources, who have that creative drive. I stayed there through it all. It was a lot of things that I went through as a young woman during that time. Some things that I won't disclose, but you just wonder why there are so many people that could be bad to you, but you should not forget the people that can elevate you. And I just tapped into the ones who really meant well with me, from the teachers who taught me how to sing, Eva Kuchai, to Nilu, who was her friend, to Ms. Redmond, to an in-law family member that helped me out. It's been a beautiful journey. And through it all, my grades were good enough to stay in Booker T, but some colleges rejected me. Lots of them did, actually. And TW was one. I'm an alumni of that school now, but I remember Ms. Redmond, Ms. Kuchai, an in-law family member by the name of Sarah, and myself writing a letter, which I know it had spelling mistakes, about like, hey, just give this kid an opportunity. Weeks later, after I was rejected, they sent me an acceptance letter. And they were like, okay, we're gonna give you a chance. We have to put you on probation, but come and let us know what you can do. And I worked hard those 4 years, taking summer classes, spending the summers there because I needed a place to stay as well. And graduated with honors. It was cool, and I worked really hard. And I'm just happy for the teachers like Ms. Griesby, Ms. Kuchai, and all the rest who really came and supported. When you're older and you look back and you study your history and you realize it, you understand that there is a case where I heard a woman say gentrifying the mind. It's not that it's the person's fault, but it's like blocking them from really truly understanding who they are through written words, through art, through interacting with one another, through resources. It's when those things limit the person's growth, then sometimes they can be in this invisible box and they don't realize they're trapped, even if they have the freedom to explore outside. Like, not the physical, but the mind can be trapped in a situation because of the system of things. I dig into my history really deep, like learned about the Black Panther Party and stuff like that. I love that content because it helps me examine how the system has like placed certain individuals, my community and stuff like that, and how it's really kind of shifted the growth in many ways. But I feel like when I was there, it was a beautiful experience, but I felt it was a particular point in my life where I realized, like, okay, I started to realize my situation, but by the grace of like the universe, by the grace of the Creator, the Most High, like I had teachers who were like just there. And I feel like when I was that age, when I was younger, it's probably things that I didn't notice. But wisdom comes with time. And if I were to be like displaced or mistreated or not accepted because of like either my race, where I'm from, I would identify that quickly. And that's why it's my goal and my ultimate like responsibility to make sure the kids from my community understand that the resources, if you need them, I'm gonna find a way to give them for you, because you're dope and you should not be suppressed or oppressed because of who you are, where you come from, and how you look. Like I don't like that at all. And I use every bit of energy to make sure they realize how amazing they are. You know, because things happen and you won't even understand when you're a young one, but if you're not exposed to the proper history and your identity early on. So with the drawing and painting, once again, shouts out to my mom for planting that seed. Love that woman for doing that. But the drawing turned into 2D design, right? Photography, I wanted to take photography in high school, but with film, I could not afford that. So I remember sitting in the class one day, and I was like, seeing the cost of everything. Like, nope. And me being a kid that is, poor kid, I was like, man, I can't afford this. I know I didn't have that support at the time to get it, and I had to drop the class. I actually remember walking out in the hallway and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to drop this class, and I really wanted to take it. So throughout my journey at like Booker T and stuff, I was doing a lot of 2D and printmaking with Eva Kuchai, and just, I wasn't the top banana, which I didn't like that. I wasn't the top banana as far as like, sometimes it's like, how like you have like, hey, you hit the #1 spot. Like I was like, I just feel like art should always be like grounded, where kids can like, no matter the skill level, they all can experience one another. But I remember finally when I got to TWU, after I had graduated, I was able to experiment with digital photography and film photography. And through my time at TWU, I would like take photos of my friends and stuff. I would photograph the smallest things, because you have to enjoy the little things. And I find beauty in everything, even a tiny little bee. We need the bees anyway. But
what are your plans now?
I just kept up with the practice and learned and experimented. I didn't even have the technology that I really needed, but I would stay in the lab for hours, even on the weekends. I wasn't a party animal in college at all. I was the lab rat. I was in there just in there designing or either editing my photography. And even after I graduated, from TWU, I still kept up with the practice, and I saved up to go to grad school, which was difficult. When you're on your own, it's really hard. And through it all, I just kept doing that. I eventually ended up in graduate school at the Rhode Island School of Design, because I was like, man, I had teachers who helped me get this far. This is so cool. Like, this is fun. I want to help kiddos too. So I applied to the Rhode Island School of Design, went up there for the MAT program. At first I was supposed to go for the MA program, but it got deferred. But everything happens for a reason. It gave me more time to save. I had never been to that state before, to Rhode Island. I packed up all of my stuff when it was time to go, put it in my car, shipped the car up there, and flew up there, and just made it work. And I worked with some great kids, man, that really inspired me. Usually it's like, we inspire the kids, we hear that a lot, but they really will inspire you if you just listen to them, And when I was listening to them, I realized that many of them had stories like mine. And because of that, not only kept me documented, but started the SMART project, the creative program that I formed to make a difference to the kids when I came back home. So I want to thank the kids in Rhode Island for being that light. With photography, it's always been something that I've kept up with, even when I didn't have the money. I would save here and there, limited gear. In 2019, I actually found out, well, it was actually, the 2019 is when it started, but in 2018, at the end of 2018, I found out I was one of the participants for the Sony Alpha Female program, which was a blessing. Up until then, I had already been working on projects like the self-publication and stuff, just passion projects, because I love capturing stories and the beauty in the world. But I remember like days before I found out I won that residency, my camera broke, the only camera that I had. And I was like, man, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna create, and make this work? By then I had already made one book structure, because I went to school for graphic design, so I knew how to design my books. The camera broke, but days later, when I was sitting on the floor of my apartment and Junior was there too, I was like, oh my gosh. I got the email that I was one of the winners for it. I signed the NDA, and because of that residency, I've been able to just elevate in many ways because I have the gear. With the Sony Alpha Female program, I met a great photo editor who helped me tailor and push myself into photojournalism to really capture strong images that will support individuals in this world. With the photojournalism,
I've been there so many times.
I think I've worked with 500
there's a lot of that was even
over
worse.
the last few years, and it's been brilliant. It really has. But photojournalism is really just a part of my life now. Fine arts photography, where I dive in and I'm pulling out symbolic meanings that I feel in my spirit. But most definitely, overall, photography is just my way to leave a gift behind and build a legacy of other people while leaving a bit of my entity, a bit of my energy here when I'm one day not here. I've worked with so many, it's not really more about the companies that I work with, because people say, oh yeah, you worked with the New York Times and I've shot for CNN and stuff like that before. It's not that at all. It's the beautiful thing is the people that I meet. That's what I'm more concerned about. And honestly, y'all, with everything that's happened, I just want to thank all of the people who meant well to me, because they could have easily meant bad, but they didn't, and I met a lot of good people. The people at the Cultural Center who gave me a chance, who gave me my first art show for the self-publication, and who helped me along the Beauty of South Dallas, which is amazing because I met Miss Grisby at Pro C in South Dallas. So everything just comes right back around. Life can be crazy, but you gotta be the good. And I appreciate the people who were good in my life. It was a lot going on in my life, but just being here, meeting a great teacher here, it was very vital. And I remember hearing about Mrs. Pro C. Anderson here, just the great work that she had done. Now, when you're younger, sometimes you'll let that information flow in one ear and out the other. But when I was older, I learned about her work in the community, how much she fed into the community, how she was giving back, and how she even opened a grocery store to help with, the situations that were happening here. Providing food to someone can really enrich their souls. And it's amazing the history here. Learning about Mrs. Anderson, Juanita J. Craft, which, the residency helped birth the Beauty of South Dallas through the work that I did under that with the Cultural Center. But the school, it means so much to me. And I've come back to photograph it a few times, and I don't know. When I heard it close down, I was so sad. I was really sad about it, but it made an impact in my life, and I'm pretty sure it made an impact in the lives of other kiddos. The Beauty of South Dallas, came about through the connection that I had through the South Dallas Cultural Center. I was under the Juanita J. Craft House Artist Residency, so I was a part of the pilot program, the inaugural artist for it, and it was nice learning about the history of South Dallas, because I had, of course, went to school at Pearl C. Anderson, but I didn't really know the importance of the rich history because I didn't just receive that. I would hear, of course, about Miss Pearl C. Anderson and stuff like that, but never, more in detail about the Fair Park and Bunton and just different areas in South Dallas. So under the Juanita J. Craft House Artist Residency, John over there at the Cultural Center, really great guy, approached me about being, an artist for the pilot and creating a body of work, just images of the environment, just documenting the area. When I started to work on the project, I felt like it was important to include the voices of the people and their faces. So it just turned into something magnificent, and I gave it the name The Beauty of South Dallas because there's a lot of beauty inside of the area. It brought beauty to my life by meeting the right people. I've met, all of the amazing people at the Cultural Center. That's beauty in itself. And the history is beautiful, and it shouldn't be forgotten. With the body of work, I decided to choose black and white. For me, it freezes time. It's like, ooh, black and white. You don't know when these photos were taken, but they were recent, but it still captures an important part of history. As the area changes, it's important to keep the essence and the representation of the spirits that occupy the land. I went out for the residency it was assigned to like, hey, you go out over a course of 3 months. But for me, when I'm creating, it's not just about the project, it's about connecting with people. So I've been documenting still until this day. I just believe it's beautiful. People are beautiful, and the history, once again, is very important. Learning about, even the bombings that happened in South Dallas, sometimes, would say not a long time ago, but throughout history, and how it shaped the area, the flooding and the floodplains, how that impacted people, and how, families were really just trying to make a living and make their way. It's very unique, and that history pours into the youth, and with the youth, they grow with it. So that's why it's important to give back through my photographic work to make a difference. I'm really thankful for the opportunity, and I wouldn't change it for the world. There were some great people that I met, Mr. Johnson being one. He went to Pearl C. Anderson too. Not the same time, little older man, and there's nothing wrong with getting older. I want to say that, wisdom comes with age, and it's beautiful that I was able to connect with him, even though we're a part of different generations. There's Ty, her brother owns the breakfast bar. Yummy food there, you should stop in when you have the opportunity, but it's right across from Mr. Johnson's furniture store. You have Mr. Chambers. Mr. Chambers, he is a funny guy. Like, I swear, has a gentle soul. He can be on the phone like yelling at someone, not in a bad way, like, hey man, I need you, Then as soon as he hangs up, he's like, I'm sorry about that. Just really great energy. And I was able to work with him twice. At the very beginning of the project, I photographed Mr. Chambers right near the breakfast bar and right near the furniture store that is owned by Mr. Johnson. And he has such an insight. He has so much empathy. He spoke about all of the things that usually society will try to brush away. People who are struggling. He spoke about things that would make someone cry, but him honoring the people in the stories just by speaking about that was beautiful to me. I worked with him about a year and a half later. Again, we met at a nearby park, and he had his dogs with him. I don't know how he does it, but I've never been able to get a dog to just listen to me without a leash or anything, but he loves them and they love him, and it was just beautiful seeing that man again. Very great energy, and just one of the best people I've met. Also in the series, those kids are so confident, little tiny humans. They don't like when I call them tiny humans, but they're tiny and they're human. Like, they're tiny humans. But I actually photographed the team, the Dallas Tigers, in front of Pearl C. Anderson. I was actually up there that day just to photograph Pearl C, just the signs, and I saw them up there putting on their little football gear, and the coaches were really sweet. You can tell that they motivate the boys and they love them. And they wanted photos. They used up all of my Polaroids, which that's good as long as they are happy. And I photographed them right in front of the school that changed my life, where I met Miss Grisby, and that was a very special moment for me. And I hope it was a special moment for them as they continue to grow up into great, amazing people. They go into their adult lives. I hope they remember how special they are. And they won the championship game. So that was cool to hear that. I'm like, yes, little dude, you got it. There were other great people that I met, like Mr. and Mrs. Hunt. Mr. Hunt was from the area. His wife was not, but she loved it just the same. She would go out and pick up, like, if she saw trash, she would clean up the street that they lived on. And she had a very beautiful energy. So Mr. and Mrs. Hunt invited me into their home. Just beautiful, just the traditional wood from the original build. And it was just great. Just spending time with them. I don't photograph the whole entire time. I connect with people, we talk. The photographs happen at the very beginning, but it's important to get to know people. I think in current times, we really don't slow down and take the time to get to know people without technology being involved. But we have to remember that we all connect, we are energy, and energy is the most important thing when you're documenting history. Amazing people I met, from Mr. Calvin to Victoria, to Liz, to everyone who's doing great work in the community. It's amazing, and I wish them all well, and I'm so happy that I was able to work with them through the beauty of South Dallas. Much love to the Cultural Center, to the Most High, and anyone who ever needs upliftment, just do the work, feel free and feel good, because you are making a difference. Whether the world has told you that or not, you are important.